Welcome, everyone. This is the Cascadia Regional Call, where bioregional organizers come and give updates about what they've been working on, do some collective wisdom sharing, and do some breakout rooms to get to know each other. So we are getting started today with a grounding exercise offered by Ellen Kuhl. We'll do a little bit of context setting, talk about the recent webinar through the Design School for Regenerating Earth. We'll give a chance for people to give their bioregional updates. We'll do a collective learning opportunity. Daniel Lindenberger has a presentation on the Metachrysalis game, which is really exciting. I got a sneak peek, so really excited for that. We'll do some breakout rooms and then report backs, and then Denise is going to read us a poem at the very end. So that's our schedule for today, and we'll go ahead and jump right in. So Ellen, if you want to start with our grounding.
I invite everybody to close your eyes and feel your feet on the ground or your bottom, wherever is closest to the ground, and feel your roots being pulled down to connect with all the roots of every other earth being and the earth herself. And with the comfort of belonging, take a big breath in. And then exhale anything you don't need to have with you at this meeting. And acknowledge your toes, move them on the ground. And acknowledge your calves. And acknowledge your knees. And acknowledge your thighs and your hips and your pelvic and your core, all of your organs, your ribs, sternum, chest, breasts, heart. Let's take a special breath into our heart. And exhale all the love to the universe. And acknowledge our shoulders and our elbows, wrists, fingers. Let's take a breath of gratitude into our hands and fingers that allow us to work with the earth. Acknowledge our neck, our spine, all our nerves, our ears, our skull, our mouth, our eyes, our nose. Let's take a big breath in to acknowledge all of our senses and the information we get to perceive and experience. And let's take a breath in for all our fellow humans to breathe in some open-mindedness and bioregional mindedness, and just send them the ability to know that we are all connected. And when we exhale, just exhale complete love. And I invite all of us to rejoin and be present in this moment together with our eyes open. Thank you for indulging me in that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Appreciate you. All right. So this space is being hosted by Regenerate Cascadia, and I just want to spend a moment to acknowledge Brandon and Claire and Taya, who've been really working tirelessly to create the backbone for a lot of these bioregional structures. And yeah, just to invite you, if you don't know about Regenerate Cascadia, you can visit regeneratecascadia.org, or if you want to email landscapes@regeneratecascadia.org for any questions, we'd be happy to answer those. I just want to offer that acknowledgement into the space as we move into this. And yeah, so at the recent webinar for the How to Organize Your Bioregion Learning Journey, Joe and Penny, who are the facilitators at the Design School for Regenerating Earth, offered a really exciting update in the Mighty Networks platform. So basically, everyone will be able to have more autonomy in their hub organizing, and that will be more public facing than it used to be. So you won't have to have a full design school membership to see the individual organizing hubs, which is going to represent a really awesome, wonderful new membrane for people joining into this work and learning about the individual hubs going on in various bioregions. And I just want to say that there's also something in the works for Regenerate Cascadia to have its own Mighty Networks platform as well, that's going to allow for a lot of like sub hubs essentially, and a lot of guilds and organizing. So there will be like a lot of diversity coming in the ways that we can be organizing and be communicating with each other in really decentralized ways. So lots of excitement coming in there. Stay tuned. And yeah, I just want to offer if there's any questions or curiosities about the most recent webinar, or any questions about the design school that people want to bring into the space, any reflections, just give a little bit of space for that. You're welcome to raise your Zoom hand, or I'll probably see you if you raise your hand on camera too. So let me know. But yeah, and then in the design school, the next few webinars are going to be focused on various design immersions and different frameworks for really how to bring this work into the practical sphere and the models that we can use to replicate. And I'll actually be giving a presentation with Brandon and Claire on the 5th about the bioregional landscapes program, so the seed and landscape group applications that are live now. So that's very exciting. And yeah, I'll definitely send out more information in the newsletter that I send out, and also the Regenerate Cascadia newsletter that will be coming in soon. So it doesn't look like there's any questions or reflections on the most recent webinar. So I think we'll go ahead and move into just general updates. So if you have anything in your area of the Cascadia bioregion where you're hosting events, or you've done exciting land tending work, or there's anything that you're doing that you'd like other people to know about, please let us know where you're calling in from and give us some information about that. And yeah, you can go ahead and raise your Zoom hand if you can, or you're welcome to type in the chat as well. Anybody got anything going on they want to share? Go for it, Ellen.
I started participating more with the Hilo platform, which is clunky, but I went to their community meeting yesterday, and they know it, and I feel like they're really attempting to be a global tech United Nations landing zone for people working to bring about the new paradigm. So I don't know, I haven't looked to see if School of Design or any of this is up there yet, but I just thought I'd put that out there, because if we all join it, it's another place to talk and try and just expand the work.
Totally. Thanks for presencing that, Ellen. I know they're working very, very hard over there to build a framework that works for everybody. So yeah, excited to see how that develops over time. And David, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Andra. Sorry, my phone's ringing as I'm trying to talk. Hold on. It says it's suspected spam, but I can't make it stop. There it goes. Sorry. So I just wanted to briefly share about Regenerate Whatcom here in Whatcom County, the Nooksack River watershed, water catchment into the Salish Sea. We had last Friday, we had we're doing a monthly meetup that's in conjunction with Whatcom Permaculture. So it's a permaculture meetup / Regenerate Whatcom meetup. And we met at a home actually in my neighborhood. It's on a 1 acre lot, and they are planning to build, to increase. They have a couple families living there now in community, and they're planning to increase that and to have a community space for intergenerational low-cost housing. And they had some permaculture gardening going on, but we used that as an opportunity to talk about the idea of social permaculture and Regenerate Whatcom being an example of that. Being we talked through the permaculture principles of David Holmgren and related them to social permaculture and the type of things we're trying to do with Regenerate Whatcom. And then on Sunday we went out to the eastern part of our county, up on the Nooksack River to the River Farm, where we had a planning event for an upcoming design immersion planned for August 16th at the River Farm. We're going to walk the land and see it there at the river, see it focusing on water issues. If you recall, the first class in the design school here on how to organize your bioregion was in relation to water and its importance. So we're going to focus on that. So that's in the works. That's it.
Beautiful. Thank you, David. It's been exciting to see all of the developments coming out of Whatcom lately. So thanks for holding down the fort and doing some of those Climate Week events as well. And yeah, anyone else? Yeah, Denise, go for it.
Sounds like August 16th is going to be a lot going on. There's a Burien Solar Punk Festival in Burien, Washington on from noon to 6 that same day. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat. And Eco Thrive Housing is going to be there. And kind of vetting the questionnaire. We haven't broken ground yet. It's affordable, permanently affordable, climate adaptive co-housing project happening in Burien. And so we're going to be talking to people about it and making art together, because that's how we started, was making art together and asking, what do you need to thrive? And people need permanently affordable, climate adaptive homes that they can afford to purchase. So we're looking forward to that. And if anybody's interested in joining us there, we'd love to see you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Denise. And over to Pamela.
Yeah, just to let people know who live in the southeast section of, like I'm in the southeast section of Vancouver Island, the Salish Sea, and the Lifeboat Academy is located on Pender Island, just off of Vancouver Island. And they're now offering a boot camp, a gunboat boot camp that's open to visitors if they want to sense into and live into a model of regeneration on this what they call a pharmastery. I'm putting the information in the chat. If anybody is interested, curious, you can find out more from them online. Hey, Claire, good to see you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And over to you, Melanie.
Hi, y'all. I just was thinking that since I mentioned our Northwest tour that I did with Hazel, Siskiyou Permaculture, a couple of times, that you'd like to hear, maybe, that we actually did the tour and we're back. Yeah, Hazel was very well received, and we did several different pieces. We had talks in both Portland and Seattle that were very well attended. The workshops a little bit less so. We also did talk on white salmon. What do I want to tell you about it? The talks were really focused a lot on systems change. So Hazel has been talking a lot with people about collapse issues, about deep adaptation, about what the post-industrial lifeways will look like, about tuning into indigenous people of their area. And for any of you that don't know, I work with Hazel and Karen in a group called Siskiyou Permaculture, and Hazel wrote a book about the work that they've been doing that came out a couple of years ago. It's called Social Forestry, Tending the Land as People of Place. Look, Claire's got a copy. Anyhow, yeah, so it was really interesting. The talks that we did in the cities, people were really interested in talking about systems and systems collapse, and not terribly interested in forestry. And then we were in our workshops that were out on people's land, we did a lot more talking about actual forestry, which we've done a lot of. And I mean, all of the work that Siskiyou Permaculture does, both in forestry and we teach in a class called optical surveying, which is more of our permaculture work. We always teach tools that we'll be able to use after we don't have electricity and gas, both in surveying and forestry work, as an emphasis. Yeah, people enjoy it a lot. Anyhow, we had a good time with folks out there in the forest. And we've done, I'm going to say, I think one of the things that's interesting, we got to be in a lot of different ecotones during our trip. We were at Elkin Mist, we were at Atlan, and we were at the Quilcene Folk School, as in addition to being in the cities, also at Lost Valley. And each of those has quite a different kind of forestry, mostly in terms of how much water they get or how fertile their underlying soils are. And it was really quite interesting to see, the different kinds of forests, and to talk with people about, especially those in the wetter areas, about the transition from the fungal dominated looping that goes on in the wet forests to more of a fire regime, because all of our Western forests have been involved with fire, and some, and the ones that haven't had it recently are moving that direction. And we talked a lot about that. That's enough, unless anybody wants to ask me something.
Beautiful, Melanie. Thank you so much. I was curious. I was hoping you would come and talk about it because I missed a lot of those events, but I was following the tour closely. So I'm glad to hear how it went. Thank you for reporting back on that. And over to you, Claire Strawn.
Greetings all. The thing I'm most excited about our work right now is there's a small town south of Eugene called Cottage Grove, and that's where the Center for Rural Livelihoods, who is one of our organizational partners, is centered. And thinking about one of the big arguments for the timber industry and a lot of the extractive industries is jobs, jobs, jobs. So their mission is to create a local economy that's regenerative instead of extractive, and and they do a lot of social forestry things and a range of different projects. Anyway, we're working with them to actually restructure or reorganize the local Cottage Grove whole community economy around regenerative principles. And they have partners in the community, the food shed partners, the grocery stores, the bakery, the different kinds of agricultural stuff, manufacture, the whole range of sectors. And it's really exciting to me. We're talking with them, and they're doing the lead on it, about creating a portfolio of a integrated system community that's non-extractive, that we can then present for BioFi level funding to develop. So that's still in the conversation stage, but the local partners are like, well, unless you have these principles, blah 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 blah, which we all have, then I don't want to work with you. And we're like, yay. So I just wanted to let you know that's happening.
Very exciting work over there. Thanks for bringing that in, Claire. Yeah, anyone else have an update on something that they've done in their landscape or an event that's coming up? Anyone else want to chime in?
After a fun time of doing a little bit of invasive pulling with Green Teams Canada's Lower Mainland group, we're going to be hopefully in the next couple of weeks hanging out with them and talking a bit about how they and Fraser Lowland might play together around some things. So yeah, it's nice to feel the network pushing out the little mycelia.
Lovely, beautiful, Daniel. Thank you. Yeah, I know how meaningful that invasive pulling can be, and just watching it transform a landscape. We've definitely been continuing to work on our little plot of land here. We're also considering a formal renaming process from Stevens Creek to Fringe Crop Creek, so we're beginning that. So yeah, and also just transforming the landscape and really helping the native plants there thrive. So that's my like little baby update for me. And then over to you, Jonathan.
Yeah, earlier in the spring, we held a really successful erosion mitigation workshop, doing some significant rock work in a gully and slowing the erosion. And then we were able to plant about 4,000 trees. We didn't reach our goal. We had about 5,000 trees, and we just ran out of time with the wet, the warm weather hit us. So I've got hundreds and hundreds of trees in my backyard that I'm nurturing to try to get through the summer, and then we'll try to plant those along with another 5,000 trees this fall and next spring. And then we're planning to host our first Abundance Festival this month on the 8th. So that's kind of exciting.
Awesome. Thank you. Wow, that's really inspiring. Thank you so much. Awesome. All right. Looks like let's go to Claire Atwell and then we'll go to Denise.
Yeah, I just thought I've been away, so I'm just kind of catching up on things Regenerate Cascadia. But I did want to mention there's I'm quite excited about this course. It's online. It's 4 Sundays in a row. It's only a couple of hours starting on the 10th of August. And it's put out by Rehuman Earth and Lila June. I don't know if people know about the work that Lila June's been doing. Is sort of the main convener of that, but there's a bunch of people teaching it. But it's I'm going to put a link in the chat. It's by donation, but I think it's an amazing way to work with Indigenous worldview and pros for regenerating a landscape. And so it's really sort of it's paralleling and mirroring a lot of what we're talking about. But I just think, yeah, I've registered for it. I just think it's like a very low bar way of being able to just enter into it and learn a lot about, especially, I mean, just knowing we need to be working with our Indigenous neighbors. And I think this is also a good way of figuring out how to do that better. So I'll put the link in the chat.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for bringing that in. And over to you, Denise.
Yeah, something that Jonathan was talking about made me, I recently met somebody who created a land conservation, and he's planted about 2,000 trees on his property, very specific, and like sequoias and red cedars and dawn redwoods and is there is there a kind of a tree people group that this is like their life passion? He's 77 and he's in really good shape, and hopefully he's around for, 20 more years or more. But like some people who have really put a lot of time and care and energy into this beautiful work, is there like a way to sort of learn or connect them to each other, and also the legal documentation that allowed for them to create this conservancy? And then what happens when they pass? This person that I just recently met doesn't have any heirs, and so I'm just getting to know him, so I'm not like, so what are you gonna do when you die, but like some kind of resource so that this can be woven into the community work, the regenerative work that we're doing. Jonathan and anybody else. Oh, good. Jonathan, you got your hand up. Okay, that's sort of my question is how can we collect that information and weave it together? collecting sounds kind of extractive, but you know, weaving it together.
Yeah, go for it,
Yeah,
John.
I like weaving.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, my project is quite haphazard. I actually started an eco psychology camp, and that's my background is in psychology. And due to the pandemic and a catastrophic wildfire and a flood that washed out the roads, I've been in full-on collapse mode. And I feel like the area that I'm in is like an epicenter for ecological contraction. And so I've, you know, had to turn my focus more toward, you know, what is the regenerative practices that we can do. And in the midst of that, you know, I've kind of come to the conclusion that perhaps we're not really doing anything but learning to open our hearts and tend place in some modicum of a gesture of reparations and making amends, and that is healing in itself of our relationships with the natural world, though we're part of the natural world, of course. In the process of that, you know, besides meeting John Liu and spending 5.5 months living in tents with him, and, you know, kind of going down this track of eco restoration, I've been really, you know, deeply immersed in, you know, kind of the, you know, for lack of a better word, the, you know, deep adaptation work of Jem Bendel's and some of the other, you know, kind of collapse aware movements, and also the bioregional movements, of course. Here I am. And the world of the commons has really come into my awareness. And so I'm in the process of trying to put the land that I'm curating, which is about 120 acres of timber production zone on the slopes of this iconic, you know, Cascadian volcano, into a commons. And I'm wanting to expand that so that I have other neighbors that have 1,000 acres or 5,000 acres or whatever. We're all aging out. And, you know, can we create a regenerative forestry cooperative that is a commons and simultaneously is really working on this, you know, paradigm shift that, you know, is so inspired by Hazel Ward's work and such. So if anybody's interested in talking to me further about that, that's what I'm going to be wanting to talk a lot about on this call today, is creating a commons, a legal structure of commoning.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, Jonathan, maybe you want to put your email address in the chat in case people want to get in touch with you. And then, yeah, I just want to presence that, as I was mentioning earlier, we're in the process at Regenerate Cascadia of building a Mighty Networks platform that will give us a lot more flexibility in how we have these kinds of conversations so people can connect to each other a little easier. Yeah, and that's good, very much going to be in collaboration with the design school, not in competition with it, in terms of just making sure that we have a more robust, flexible space to be operating. And then everyone will be familiar with the type of platform because it's Mighty Networks, as many of us have been using for the design school. So yeah, so very excited for the ways that those conversations will keep happening. These connections will keep getting made. Thanks for bringing that all in. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, so we had been doing a little bit of a sociocratic gesture instruction just as a way to be giving us more nonverbal tools for meeting facilitation. And so just going to do a quick recap of a few gestures that we've practiced. So this one is like, wow, I really agree with that. So you call it up twinkles. But yeah, just kind of moving your fingers together. An objection is a palm out because you're offering a gift to the group. And let's see, we talked about clarifying questions. So your hand is like in a C, and then you're kind of just like moving it back and forth. Direct response is you're moving your two hands back and forth to say like, hey, I know I'm going out of turn, but it's really important that I respond to that thing that someone just said. I have like direct information about that. And then the one that I want to bring in today is just point of process. So it's kind of like trying to make a triangle with your fingers. Point of process. And that just means like, hey, we need to talk about something in meta right now. Like, hey, we are way off time, or hey, we are, do we have a note taker, or something like about the meeting itself, the container of the meeting, like, hey, point of process, we need to figure this out real quick before we continue talking about our agenda items. So that's just a thing that can be helpful in the meetings, to not interrupt someone, but just recognize like, oh, hey, we have something we need to talk about. So yeah, just as a little offering. And then I will go ahead and turn it over to Daniel to give us a presentation on Metachrysalis and gamifying bioregionalism.
Perfect. Thanks, Andrea. Yeah, and before I begin the kind of overall ramble, one thing that I wanted to sort of say, I'll also mention I'm a really low formality presenter. So if while I'm coming, there's something that's bursting forth for you, throw it into the chat, or feel free to kind of jump it in and mention, and we'll try to make sure there's enough time for any Q&A at the end as well. But I just wanted to talk for a second about games, and to talk about, there's great folks like Jane McGonigal who have books and presentations, Reality is Broken, talking about the way that the games that we play and the skills we learn through play affect the way we see the world, the way we see ourselves and our agency within it, the ways we learn how to collaborate or compete with one another. So just games as something that are a fundamental part of how we work in the world, and bring innovation and creativity to that work, are really critical. And so I love talking about that, and I'm happy to jam with anyone around that at any time. So this is a gameful framework that has come out of the last year's worth of work, first on a fellowship for mycelial approaches to the metacrisis, which is a lot of syllables for saying how do we get together and heal ourselves and our homes, and then work around crisis relief and a few other things. There's a quote that I love here. There we go. So from Jane McGonigal, games make us happy because they are hard work that we choose for ourselves. And it turns out that almost nothing makes us happier than good, hard work. And I'll put the added caveat on there, where we don't feel exploited, where we feel like we're doing it just because we want to be doing that work, is something people get great joy out of. Let me just get this working. There we go. So what is Metachrysalis? It's this mixture of a game and a playful framework for doing bioregional work, where people take on the role of themselves as a character, think about themselves through these narrative archetypes, and look at the systemic challenges and shared purpose that we're bringing together in our regions. We join forces to carry out real-world projects that are rooted in the bioregion. And rather than trying to maximize an individual score, we look at how we build social, ecological, and cultural regeneration into our landscapes as we go. So right now, this feels like it's particularly handy because we're in the metacrisis. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but there's all of these reinforcing facets of dysfunctional pattern of how humans have been exploiting, transacting, and being on the planet, that are reinforcing one another into a rapid downward spin. Top-down systems, even when they're well aligned, which often they're not, are usually too slow and too brittle, and too short-term in terms of their thinking to handle this. Emergent grassroots work really is where the power is for a huge amount of this work. So Metachrysalis offers people a way in to finding their spot within that work, or if they're already in the throes of that work, really deep into it, gives them a framework for storytelling that work and sharing it with other people to connect with others. So how does it work, basically? And there's lots of different ways it can be played, but the basic idea is your game board that you're playing is your bioregion. So part of setting up for playing the game is doing some of your bioregional mapping, figuring out what's going on in the area. I won't explain bioregional mapping because you all know it, but doing some of that bioregional mapping of what's going on in the area and the different opportunities and crises, and groups and folks who are doing neat stuff in the area. The player is yourself, and we have sort of an idea of character classing where people can identify different ways that they engage in the world. We're using Deepa Iyer's work around social change roles, and we're in discussion with her around what that will look like to be using that. But she has these 10 roles that she's identified. And when I talk to people, most people, 2 to 5 of these roles resonate pretty strongly with them about what it is that they do in the world. With weavers and experimenters, frontline responders and visionaries, builders, caregivers, disruptors, healers, storytellers, and guides. So as we storytell to each other about what our roles are within this, it helps us get to know one another. It helps us understand what we each bring to the table, and so fosters collaboration as well as mentorship. There can be micro-credentialing trees that relate to those different roles, so that if I'm a weaver, I can learn, oh wait, Andra knows huge amounts about sociocracy. I want to know a lot about sociocracy, so maybe I can set up some kind of a mentor relationship there where they can teach me. The challenges are the metacrisis, and I'll just really quickly name the 8 facets that I tend to work with in terms of how to frame the metacrisis. But of course, there's lots of different ways that can be looked at, and this is just the tips of each iceberg. So one is the existential crises that will either remove humanity from the dance of complexity completely, or will sideline us in being able to be meaningful stewards of life and complexity and participants in that. One is the fragile web of different interconnected systems that are really prone to cascading failures, economic, political, environmental, sociological. One is the epistemic crisis of just challenges in shared understanding, of identifying what is true, of relating to the idea of authority and where authority is in terms of information, and in sharing information in ways that are meaningful and actually catch. Soul split is the fragmentation of the different narratives that we have, our cultural dissolution, the social isolation and mental health issues that can kind of come from that, and stronger antagonism between the different lines, between different communities. Earth erosion is one that I know we're all very familiar with, the actual ecological crisis that we're engaging with. Excuse me. Power pyramid relates to not just the inequalities that are in the world, but the ways that all of the world's systems are increasingly warped to serve the exploitation and extraction for the benefit of those who have the most. Tech tsunami is the rapid rate at which everything is moving in terms of technology, and the fact that its speed of evolution is outstripping our social, legal, and ethical systems to sense make and navigate any of it, leading to both unintended consequences and also intended new forms of control and exploitation. And then leadership lapse is just this mixture of our governance systems not being equipped to handle complexity very well, often operating in silos, often being slow to adapt, sometimes being prone to corruption and inefficiency, and being designed in a way that fosters short-term thinking. So if we're playing a game, these are the big challenges that the things that we're in are kind of nestled within. The game has 3 different modes. It's regeneration, resilience, and relief. The default mode is regeneration, where what we're doing is as we play together, we work on identifying and then activating different projects, different things that we can do, or supporting projects that are underway that help with regenerative work. We can also play in resilience mode. Some of that might be through things like tabletop simulation training, working through scenarios together that help us figure out how would we work together better in wildfire or earthquake or famine or heat wave. And those then can inform our understanding of the systems that are there and leads to improvements in how we do our regenerative work. The other mode is relief mode, which is when we're actually in the middle of disaster. And this is based off of the work that we were doing in North Carolina after Hurricane Helene. That's still ongoing. But in this mode, we really focus on mapping and doing prioritization and triage of what's needed for people to be safe and healthy. And through that work, also identifying where are the opportunities for systems change that will lead to more resilience, and especially will lead to more bottom-up empowerment through grassroots activation. When we talk scoring, rather than me trying to acquire as much money as possible, the scoring is looking at the 8 forms of permaculture capital: financial, material, natural, social, intellectual, experiential, cultural, and spiritual. And there's 2 different ways that we try to score in the game. One is by mapping and increasing equitable flows of these capitals within our region. And the other is by developing public commons of those capitals in our region. And as with all things permaculture, this is a stacked functioning kind of a thing. Rather than saying, let me develop an intellectual capital, one might say, hey, let's get an organic farmer living library once a quarter, where people can come and learn holistically from those people about their life, their work, what got them into that work, whatever it might be, but where you can check out those farmers and learn from them, share their stories. In doing that, our natural, social, intellectual, experiential, cultural, and arguably spiritual capital are all moved through that one project. So we come up creatively with what those projects are going to be. Making a move in the game is a project. So after you've set up the board and have some sense of what's going on in the area, which is an ongoing process, and then party creation in the kind of gamer terminology, which is looking at who's at the table and who might I want to be doing things with, then we make moves. We ideate and plan, we engage and activate, and those moves can be tiny or they can be massive. Maybe it's you forming a whole new land trust. Maybe it's you going out and hugging a tree and documenting it. It can be anything. But you can then do your score. After you've done it, you do your scoring, which is a chance to do some of that credentialing or appreciation of one another for the people who are taking part in it, as well as looking at how the project overall went. I'll mention also that any of those credentials, well, actually, I'll mention storytelling first. So I'll tell you then the final step you do is storytelling. So in storytelling, you are gathering any artifacts, video, text, pictures of the process of that project and putting them together into a narrative around what happened. This has three different functions, this mixture of credentialing and storytelling. Well, more. It helps us celebrate it. It helps individuals build a portfolio as change makers so that they're able to find more opportunities to collaborate with other people and to work on projects. It also demonstrates the efficacy of the whole system. If you have a group that's in there that has 12 projects that they're showing that they can give compelling ideas of what's happened on them, that demonstrates benefit so that other people might want to flow any of those different capitals in or partner to make more projects happen and to bring more good things to be. Right now, we're working on two different approaches to this. One is a card game, which Darren actually had a chance to, I think, Darren, you were part of our group that did playtesting of that at the Partech retreat a couple of weeks ago. And so in that, it simply is something you can play at a table with some cards. Most of it is about the discussion and collaboration and getting to know one another and then activating projects. So game rules are really quite minimal. And the other is an online platform, an open source platform designed around data privacy and sovereignty, making sure that nothing is extractive or exploitative, where you can track the different communities, people, and challenges and projects and funding and meetings and micro-credentials where suitable, where you can do internal discovery of finding out where those different things are, where you can have logistics tools to actually help with the management and flow of projects, public display for those who want it so that they can have an external face for people to orient to who are the people and the different projects that are going on. It's aimed towards being able to do integration with AI and specifically with local AI to be as friendly for that as possible so that, again, you can gain some benefits from that without having your data exploited or being used for things that you wouldn't want it to. So it can be FIPA compliant or compliant with other privacy regulation. And then we're looking at how it can have API integration with things like Hilo or other platforms. So if your community already uses Slack or Discord, making it as easy as possible to link in with those. All of that's in the very early stages as far as the open source platform goes, but some things are coming together there.
Daniel, can I just ask you, what is API?
Thank you so much. Basically, it's just a way for different things to talk to one another so that you might be able to make an entry in our open source platform about what's going on and have that turn into a post in Hilo and a post on Facebook about the project that you're working on. Yeah, thank you so much, Claire. Anytime I'm speaking gibberish, please let me know. So what does it get used for? What can it actually do? It's great for launching bioregional work, getting people together, orienting them and getting them excited about their own agency and discovering what can be done in their area and maybe what's needed. It's good for disaster relief logistics as an actual way of finding who has what qualifications and availability, what needs to get done, and then connecting the dots, deploying resources and assets and people to the places where they're most needed in a way that is safe, secure, and reasonable, and self-organizing to some extent. It's great for education and project-based learning. This can be done as a 1-hour session, as I think we did at Partech, or it could be done as a term-long thing where you're weaving in curricular objectives and learning outcomes that are hoped for into real-world projects that the class comes up with together. For emergency and disaster simulation in order to build resilience or to do training, especially for things like inter-organizational collaboration during crisis, so that you can understand what does that look like and what things might one need to practice or improve. For check-ins and reflection, I'm hoping our organizing team is going to be using it once a month to say, what are the moves that we did this month? What are the moves we want to do next month? What new information do we have about our map? Who are the different people who are doing neat things, and what projects are going on, or what crises do we have more of an eye on now? And for ongoing movement infrastructure, simply as a way to carry out the main tasks that have to happen, having your meetings and your action items and your tasks, and being able to coordinate all of that and have eyes on it. Everything that we're doing is going to be open sourced, so we're looking at using either an MIT or a GPL license, both of which give people wide permission to not only copy and use this, but to take it, to claim it, make it their own, change it to match what their needs are, and then to do essentially as they will with it. We might put a little caveat on that of making it so that for-profit groups would have to pay something or other to use it. But the general goal is to make it as easily accessible and enabled as possible for people. I won't go through all of the quotes, but I'll say it was amazing having a presentation with Andra on it. And Andra, when you mentioned here that you were kind of moved to tears in it, like that was one of my most joyful moments in a lot of the stuff around Metachrysalis, was watching like impacts like that are wildly great. Ariana Barami, who's a founder at High in North Carolina, got to playtest it with us in Partech. And I love that she mentioned that because it's play, rather than dense seriousness, they really moved quickly into innovation with their little team, and came up with a cool plan, an innovative plan for dealing with some invasive challenges on an island. It was great talking with Jeff McNeely around it and looking at the different ways that this might be able to be used to support the work that he's doing around these living entity organizations that are steward-owned and pro-social and non-extractive. So again, because it's open source, it plays nicely with and can be sort of reshaped to match different needs. I'll really quickly show just the dream team because I love them so much, of the different people who I'm getting to work with about this. Whit and Will not pictured here. Whit and Will are dynamite programmers down in North Carolina who created the infrastructure for Appalachia Relief to help them get information out to the public during and after Hurricane Helene. Dr. Danielle Johnson is going to be helping us with game design and with Midwest implementation. So around Milwaukee and kind of the area there, we're actually going to be doing some stuff there at a festival, which I'm excited about. Jesse Manis is head of R4, one of the main people helping do grassroots logistics for crisis support. Her and her colleagues and partner organizations currently feed about 20,000 people a month in North Carolina, because a lot of it is still a food desert after the hurricane. Mayana Nguyen is going to be helping us with looking at BC and Fraser Lowland's implementation and weaving. Ben Smith is an extraordinary fellow who's worked with CRI and Daniel Schmachtenberger and folks around Metachrysalis curriculum. So we'll be working with him around Metachrysalis and this idea of skill trees, or different sets of knowledge that people might want to be learning or sharing with one another, or want people to be aware that they have. And then Phoebe and Fairlith are both fantastic narration creators. Phoebe is an art director and narrative creator with an award-winning VR project and countless other projects under her belt. And Fairlith is a playwright who focuses on immersive, nonlinear, interactive theater. And she's going to really help look at how do we do that orientation to help people place themselves in the story and tell their story in a way that helps other people kind of engage with it. So really, that's a lot of words, but the nice thing is actually trying it out and playing with it is really, really simple. And again, the game framework is designed to mainly be a leaping off point for having the conversations, getting to know one another, and then engaging in the work and sharing what comes from that. The other main piece that comes from it with that is people are used to orienting to complexity in games. We're used to games having a set of complex rules, and that feels much more interesting to learn and engage with than the wild, oppressive, and sometimes paralyzing feeling of looking at, like, what are all the myriad parts of regeneration we need to be doing, and what is the metacrisis, and how do we deal with collapse, and all of these different pieces. So sometimes giving it that gameful framing allows people to orient to it in bite-sized ways. I'll stop talking there, but thank you all very much. And again, if anyone wants to talk about any more of this, then I'm happy to nerd out and to share any of what we have. The last piece I'll say around it is that we're also making localized versions. So if you have an organizing team or a group that would want to use it, we're more than happy to work with you to come up with a customized set of, say, the card deck, which is dealing specifically with the issues in your area, and it's designed for your group to keep on evolving as they do their work.
So great, Daniel. Thank you. Just want to
Thanks.
present a couple of questions in the chat. So is there some place that people can follow the development of this game and get updates about the development?
There will be really soon. So far, we're still in the really early stages. But yeah, right now, talking to me is the best way to go. But we will be putting together both a mailing list and making sure that the Thomaso website has a page that's dedicated so people can follow along, and so that people can download the resources that are there if they want to try things out.
Beautiful. And for people watching the recording, that's Daniel at Thaumazo, THAUMAZO.org. Awesome. And then another question, are these thought experiments or real on the ground projects?
Thank you. These are, so it can be either. You can work with a group to do thought experiments, but where the game thrives is real world projects. So coming together, doing real sense making about what's going on and getting creative, and especially starting bite size with what are the little interventions we can do that have a meaningful impact in any of these different kind of ways. And you probably all know that the story of the school that one group, they were doing pottery, and one group was like, okay, you have to make the perfect pot, and that's what you're graded on. And the other people were told, just make 1,000 pots, and you'll be graded on how many you made. And the people who make 1,000 pots tend to make more beautiful pots because they give themselves permission to. So using this as a way to give yourselves permission to playfully do myriad projects on the ground and to celebrate what you learned through doing that.
Awesome. A couple more chat questions. Are you able to share the slide deck if people email you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm more than happy to.
Okay, great. And will there be a light version, an entry-level version for people who are new to these concepts and processes?
100%. And as we put together the material for how to play it, that's also going to be pretty customizable for what people are doing. So for a new team that is learning each other, you can play just the character generation part and sharing with each other, here are the roles that I have, and here's my quest and my backstory. Or you might have a group that is just like, okay, let's dig in and get the stuff done. And yes, there will be demonstrations at events. So we're going to be hopefully demonstrating it, I think in August or September here in Langley. At Milwaukee's Resilience Festival in October, there's going to be an opportunity for it to be shared there. And if there are other events where people are like, oh, this feels like it could be something that would support our event, then I would love to talk to you and see how we could make that happen. Yeah, so it's a great question. My hope is that within about a month, we're going to have reasonably solid infrastructure for the online component of things. The card game is essentially a simple version of it is ready. I just need to get the guidebook mentioned so that people know a couple of things that they can do with it. So I would say, again, about the same. My hope would be that by September, people would be able to download everything that they would need to be able to engage with it with their group.
Oh, so great, Daniel. Thank you so much for giving the presentation and for putting this team together to do this really important work. I feel so inspired, and I hope everybody else is too. So yeah, I want to give you some time to talk about this or anything that's inspiring with you in breakout groups. And so yeah, really just thinking about the question, like, how can we invite play into our bioregional organizing work? Or just get to know each other. That's also, as Daniel said, like character creation and generation, like really getting to know each other, and the work that we're doing in the landscape is part of this work and the culture shift. So I'll go ahead and send us out into breakout groups for about 15 minutes. And yeah, here we go. Great. Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully that was a fruitful conversation with a lot of juiciness. So yeah, if there's anything that you're feeling really inspired about that your group talked about, feel free to raise your hand, and yeah, we can do some report backs.
Well, I'll jump in because I'm super inspired. It's kind of like a post-doom moment. Thinking about play and changing the way that we interact with one another through a game is something that I've trained quite a bit in, and I've been really reactive to that because, like the game of life or Monopoly, like screw that, I'm not into it. And what our group came up with, I think, was one of the things was the inspiration that, we're outgrowing the old system by creating a game that is going to teach us how to live beyond the dying system that is collapsing all around us. So it's kind of an exciting twist of our thinking in our little subgroup.
Beautiful. Love hearing that. Thanks for sharing your excitement. Anyone else want to share about what they talked about in their group? I'm so curious. Go for it, Ellen.
A person in our group suggested that we have to get it to the youth. And I just love that. Yes, get it to the youth.
Anyone else want to share back from their conversation?
I'm wondering if people have strategies for getting it to the youth.
Yes, there are lots of strategies. You could go to the schools, you could go to the ministers, you could go to your politicians. They have, I know Los Angeles has a youth person on staff, Karen Bass does. So you can either start bottom up or you can start top down. Bottom up would be churches, PTA meetings, even sewing circles, grandmothers who babysit. The network is already there. It's just wanting to do it and being consistent in doing it. And, schools are always looking. After school, there's in many urban schools, there's a program called STAR, where parents who don't get off in time or just want enrichment for their child, they sign them up for STAR programs. So once the bell rings, they can stay up to 2 to 3 hours. And the parent or guardian chooses which program that they want their child to invest their time in. So this could be something like that, where they go and actually play the game. I've been in ministry 40 plus years. I taught summer camp. I didn't mention that. Summer camps, vacation Bible schools. So I'm familiar with it, but I would have to, again, you have to get a person who loves youth. Sometimes people put people in place and they don't have the stamina nor the nerves to deal with the youth. So it's something you've got to want to do first and foremost. And, you got to have compassion and love for children. And all people don't have that. You think they do, but they don't. But the network is there. As I said, I've been involved in youth ministry for many decades. And it takes time to grow. Any new thing takes time. But, if you're consistent, you'll always get someone with an open ear.
Beautiful. Daniel, did you have something to say?
I was just going to say, both an amen to that, but also just that, also those networks of youth tend to be the level of energy and fun and fire and innovation and brilliance that are there. That's where so much of the good stuff is. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome. And Denise, I saw you for a moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see, in the building the community for the regenerative housing, we're going to be having potlucks to really help people screen in or out of if it's a community that's going to resonate for them, and kind of try to screen out the folks who are just trying to get just want the affordable housing piece, which is important, but needs to be all of it. So I could definitely see this game being played at potlucks, where we really start to, look for shared values and alignment in what we're creating here together.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts, sharebacks, comments, questions? John? You're muted.
One of the things that appealed to me about gameplay is it's safe. You know, in our group, we talked a little bit about, you know, I think many of us are always struggling with it. What's the best leverage we can get with our limited time, energy, and resources? You know, how to invest that in really facilitating change. And you feel the weight of, you know, am I making a wrong decision or choice, or is this really the best possible? And gameplay allows you to not have that pressure and to actually think much more broadly and creatively. And it secondarily allows you to test run things. In some cases, you know, as Daniel pointed out, could be very realistic. I mean, you're actually doing something, but just the whole concept of being able to test a given idea or a given project or something, and just how does this really work if we do this? And what does it get? So I think that's one of the benefits. And just the perennial thing that systemic change at the level that we're all talking about is truly daunting work. And it's so easy to just get caught up in the seriousness and the overwhelming aspects of that and not have fun. And not see the bright things that are also happening, and to realize that change is already underway. You know, many times I'm working some with young people, and you're already in the new world. You know, with your attitudes and your approaches and how you work together. So it's inexorably coming.
Thank you for those comments and reflections, John. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's always a good day when I get to talk about play in a group of my collaborators. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about that. All right. Any last thoughts, comments, questions? Actually, I have a thought for you, Daniel. I wonder, in terms of just like getting feedback from the game framework, like if something, say, you're like, wow, that really didn't work out. Like, is there a way that the game is like, wah, wah, wah? I don't know. You know, in like a kind way, like, all right, we're gonna just like not give you your credentials for that or something. I don't know. Yeah, have you thought about that?
Yeah, one of the things that I love, Jane McGonigal, when she talks about game stuff, she talks about there's a school in New York that treats everything, all of the school curriculum is a game, and you don't have exams, you have boss levels. And one of the things that kids are really used to with boss levels is you can try it 100 times. You are almost guaranteed to fail the first time because it's hard. And so I think that when we take that mentality into the work that we're doing, it's really helpful. So that we're like, oh, okay, what did we learn from this run that we can now apply to do that run again? And that way, rather than thinking like, oh, yeah, I did this project and nobody came, or here's the things that went wrong with it, we're thinking about like, okay, what did I learn for when I try to tackle this thing again?
Beautiful, thank you. And over to you, Jonathan.
Yeah, I don't want to feel like I'm monopolizing space, but I guess I'm excited. Daniel, I'm just kind of curious about, you know, social skills development, mental health processes that can support resilience in both cognitive and emotional processes, kind of developing emotional intelligence and pro-social interactions, and how that's being embedded into, you know, the structure of the game. And I'd be happy to, you know, talk to you more about that offline too.
I would really appreciate that. I'd love talking with you about that. It's a critical part. And that part of it is helping people celebrate each other, see each other, and not be isolated in doing the work that's there. Looking at frameworks like the inner development goals as a way of saying, like, how are we fostering these different pieces of ourselves? I didn't go into it here, but there's a whole other section on maladaptive schemas. We're working with a psychologist on how to make a section that helps us look at, like, what are the trauma created ways that I may be seeing myself and my agency in the world in ways that don't serve me. And we're working on ways so that for groups that are high trust, they're able to dive into that as well, or people can introspect around that part. And we're even making some material, hopefully, that people can work with their counselors through some of that stuff, because some of that stuff is harder to go through alone. So yeah, I'd love to talk with you more about that. Thank you for the offer. I'll take you up on it.
So good. Got chills talking about that last part. That's awesome. So great. All right, well, let's move into our little last final piece. Denise has a poem to share with us, and then we'll take a breath together and close out for the day. So Denise, want to share your piece of art?
Yes, this is in honor of Joanna Macy, who recently passed to join the ancestors. She translated this poem by Rainier Marie Rilke called "Let This Darkness Be a Bell Tower." Quiet friend who has come so far, feel how your breathing makes more space around you. Let this darkness be a bell tower, and you the bell. As you ring, what batters you becomes your strength. Move back and forth into the change. What is it like? Such intensity of pain. If the drink is bitter, turn yourself into wine. In this uncontainable night, be the mystery at the crossroads of your senses, the meaning discovered there. And if the world has ceased to hear you, say to the silent earth, I flow. To the rushing water, speak, I am.
Beautiful. Let's all take a breath together to let those words settle in our bones. Inhale and exhale. Thank you all for being a part of this space, for loving the landscapes that you're in, for collaborating together, and for inspiring others. This truly is such a joy to be here with you all and such an honor. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to everyone who held a piece of this. If you have any suggestions, feedback, or you'd like to give a presentation in this space, you can email learningjourney@regeneratecascadia.org. And I appreciate you all so much. Have a great Friday. Enjoy.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.